Yeah, okay. Okay, we start recording now. So just quick summary, because I think it was quite useful what we start talking about. So Kim, you kind of saw that message that you told me that about vibration, when we raise our vibration in a rhythm. Why is that important? So I was saying that when you're in a rhythm, it's easier to keep the vibration going and to keep increasing it. Just like we use the analogy of a spinning top. You know, if it's already spinning, then it's stable. It's more stable. But if it's not in a rhythm, then you're going to get it up and then it's going to come down quickly again. And then the analogy also we use about it, if you turn a bicycle upside down and you spin the wheel, then it's easier to go with the movement much quicker and it keeps on rotating. Whereas if you wait until it stops, then you're putting energy to overcome momentum. You don't want to do that. You don't want to wait until your energy is going all the way down to push against momentum and to get it moving again. And I say, okay, so what can we learn from this? Is this: protect your vibration, protect your high energy. That means become aware of when you're starting to dip low and catch yourself. Don't wait until you dip all the way down, right? And I think that's when self-care comes into it as well. Man, they talk about self-care and all that stuff. Having said that, we don't mean to say fight against negative emotion, because sometimes negative emotion can inform us that there's something that needs to be dealt with, right? If there's a persona that's getting triggered or whatever, usually the persona gets triggered because there's a need that's not being didn't get met at some point, right? Now I have another thing about this. I'm going to go in a minute. So then you need to deal with that emotion. Now, how you deal with that emotion? You feel it, but you don't fight it, and you don't flee it. You don't run away from it. You acknowledge it. And so, what is this negative? Why am I feeling this negative emotion? Let it inform you what it is, right? Very gently, very calmly, just ask the question. And you will get the answers about this negative emotion. What is it? Why am I feeling that way? Yeah, you don't want to fight it. Also, you might think it's the other people. You would tend to blame other people because of but that's not. It's not going to get you anywhere. One, because you can't change the world. The only person you can change is you, right? But the trigger, and I'll tell you why it's actually helpful, and you should thank the person who's triggered you. Right. Let me explain this bit now. When we move through life, we move from one persona to another. You know, we move from one version of ourselves to the other version of ourselves. Our true self, the complete self, is a silent witness. It doesn't even participate in all the action, inaction, reaction, whatever. Right? The way we live, move in life, we just create another version of ourselves. And that version of ourselves goes and interact with the world physically, emotionally, whatever, right? Now, as we move through life, the previous persona gets integrated back into us, and then we move towards the other one, the other self who has the next ambition, right? So if you think about it, from a baby, a toddler, a teenager, you've had various versions of yourself, right? So where did they all go? Where did that toddler that you were at some point go? It didn't just vanish, right? It didn't die. You didn't have a funeral for it. It got reabsorbed into you. And then another one got created, right? The problem happens when, at some point, if something happens to that version of yourself, something didn't quite go right. Let's say a love affair didn't quite happen the way it was, and something that you didn't like what you did yourself, and you develop like some form of rejection for that persona. Let's say you hated yourself at that time for what you did, or you felt pain because you didn't get the love that you wanted, but then you didn't want to feel that pain, and you squashed it, you pushed it away, you made yourself hard, right? And what happens? It didn't get reabsorbed, right? Because you didn't want that part anymore. But you think it's gone away, but it's not. It just went undercover, into hiding, right?
And then you have protective parts that protect against that, a protective persona.
But when you try to move forward in life, because now you create a new persona, you want to go there. But this one is still attached. It has the need that was not met. So when you can go a little bit, but then there's this tether. At some point, there's a limit. Then you can't go further anymore. But then it's like trying to drive a car with a handbrake on, right? But this one's still tethered because this one wants to go in the opposite direction, right? Because it still has something that hasn't been dealt with, and then you find yourself struggling. You wonder why you can't go further, and you get exhausted, you get tired, you get fed up, and then you swing back towards the need of this one, and you feel a bit more comfort, right? You're happy now, but then you get frustrated because you're not moving forward. Then you gravitate back toward this one and trying to go again, right? But then you get back, and then you start looping between the two, right? And that's when they call it internal conflict, right? You have an internal conflict. Because this one has a set of belief, because it has its ambition, but this one has its sense of belief based on what happened at that time, right? So within the same person, you can have conflicting sets of belief and a conflicting sets of needs that they're struggling to get met, right? So in the end, what happened? These two are fighting each other, and you're not at peace, and you're frustrated all the time. You keep trying, but you feel that you're stuck, right? So that's because there's two versions of yourself that have competing needs, competing sets of beliefs, but trapped in the same physical body and competing for the resources of this physical body. Right? Now, how do we know this happens? How do we find the evidence? How can we become aware that it happens? Right? So the first indication is that looping thing that happens. The conflict, the internal conflict that you feel. That's one way of noticing it, right? The second way you're going to notice is the trigger. A trigger happens. When then that part jumps in front and starts fighting, and then you end up saying something, and you say, "Oh, I can't believe I did that. Where did that come from?" Right? So the trigger, there will be an external trigger that will bring this one out from the hiding, and it become present. Yeah, so notice that. If that happens, that means, that's a second full confirmation that there's something that was not reabsorbed back in that is still there, competing for attention, right? Want to have a need met. Okay. Now, the third thing that's going to happen is that when things are not going to go your way, right? And this one's suddenly going to feel that the need is not being met, you're going to tend to blame the external thing that's happened to you, the external effect. If you're finding yourself blaming and irritated and cursing people, there's definitely evidence that there's some part of you that did not get reabsorbed and is hanging around, right? Okay. Now, how are we going to get the need of that previous self met, of that persona met, right? Usually through you is going to try to get that need met externally, either through some kind of connection seeking or some relief seeking, whether it's shopping, addiction to shopping, alcohol, promiscuity, or trying to make friends, loads of friends on Facebook, whatever. If it might be a need for being heard, a need for being seen, or a need for connection, whatever that need is going to attempt to try to get that met externally. But that will only be temporary. It will never last long enough. Okay? And then you're going to forget it. And then it's going to keep having that emptiness. The only one who can get that need met is the full version of you, is the whole version of you, the silent witness. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So just like if you have a child and they have their need not being met, and then you're going to go to them and say, okay, it's okay, I'm here, whatever. So first you need to figure out what the need is, right? So for me, for example, one that came up was the need to be heard. I didn't even know it. I didn't know what about this is going to give me emotion, but when I inquired about it, it was like, oh, so it was the need to being heard. Even though I never had that problem with anyone else before, right? But with one particular group of people, it triggered me. And I was blaming them because, oh, that's how they are. You know, they don't appreciate me. They don't this, yeah. But eventually, when I said, okay, so that's the persona's need. That's the previous self. You know, the past self that I had. That some kind of was a residue there, right? So that's what was bringing up this negative feeling. So I said, okay, I see you now. I said, okay, from now on, whenever that feeling comes, I'm going to meet that feeling for you to be heard.
Mm.
Guess what, though? It wasn't like he had to talk about a lot of things. No, I just heard the need to be heard. And I said, okay, I acknowledge it. I hear that now. So when that trigger happened again, next time, and I was aware of it, I said, okay, I know that feeling. Calmly, smile at it, comfort. It lasted for maybe 10 minutes and then completely gone. And then the whole situation I was in, where before I would have just been withdrawn myself and not carried on talking, because the first time I tried to make a conversation, I felt like nobody was interested, so I would have given up. I was like, okay, I'll just be in that situation and I can't wait to get out of it. But that didn't bother me. I kept trying the next conversation, the next topic, and the next topic, and the next topic. Eventually, we started having a great discussion. Everyone was happy. Everyone was laughing. We were making jokes and everything. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this actually happened this so quickly. Yeah. I don't want to make it too long, but so I actually experienced it myself firsthand, how this works. So yeah, that's the core of it, right? Noticing that, acknowledging it, and knowing that the external trigger that's happening, this is not, people say that life is happening for you, not to you. What they're saying, right? It all makes sense now, right? And sometimes people say, the external world is a mirror of what's actually really happening inside. But it's so vague. It's like, yeah, you say that, but how? I don't get it. People don't get it, right? I'm not sure if people will get what I'm trying to say here, because it can be a bit of a weird concept that there's several versions of you within yourself. So maybe some people might struggle with that. But if it makes sense, if you get it, if that resonates, then it will completely make sense. I mean, people talk about this concept of inner child and things like that. I don't think it's just about inner child. I mean, you have various versions of yourself. There might be inner teenager, an inner 20-year-old, an inner 30-year-old. It doesn't matter. I don't think it's only about the childhood thing. I think it just, whatever happens, and at some point you decide to reject that version of you, right? Then it becomes trapped. It becomes trapped. It can't get reabsorbed. Now it's going to keep coming to you because that need didn't get met. And if you want to ignore it all you want to try to, it's not going to happen until you resolve it. But does that resonate a bit?
Very much. Question, like you were talking about systems, how our body is a system as well. What about the manifestations of like inner stress in physical manifestations in our health, for example.
Yes, that's right. There's looked at some work from this Dr. Bradley. Can't forget his surname now, but he talks about the emotion code, right? And according to him, it's like these he talks about emotional baggage actually, right? So he talks about it slightly differently. He talks about emotional baggage that get trapped into our energetic body, because we are actually an energetic body first before physical body. The energetic body is what gives rise to the physical body. It's a byproduct of the physical body, of the energetic body. So these trapped emotions, we call it emotional baggage, is almost like, he describes it almost like a ball of energy stuck somewhere, you know, in between our, our energetic body is like made of kind of strands of energy and like flowing in different ways, yeah. But then there's like a little ball that gets stuck, and that ball of energy kind of diverts the flow, if you want, slightly, and that's what results in physical pain, deteriorations of certain tissue, whatever. A very interesting work he does.
Have you heard of Dr. Gabor Mate as well, When the Body Says No? That book?
No, I haven't read that, but that also sounds quite interesting. Yeah, When the Body Says No, right? It's
Have you heard of it, Kim?
Yeah, I've actually had a skim through it, and I listened to a couple of interviews with him too. He makes a whole lot of sense, and I've forwarded them to my niece because he talks about how to raise children the right way and stuff, and she's just had a little baby, so I'm hoping that she'll listen to some of his stuff because he really is good, spot on with it all. Just going back a minute to what we was just talking about, like, I think it comes down to awareness again, doesn't it? Being aware of your triggers and everything like that. But what happened when I just got in, I can talk now because my partner just went out, but so I was on quite a high vibe, even though my car is broke. It wasn't going right this morning, but I didn't let it get to me. Like it was in the past, I would let all that get to me, and then I would just get annoyed because I think the money, this, that, and the other. But I didn't think of it like that. I completely thought of it in a different way. There's always a reason behind things, blah, blah, blah. Everything will be all right. Then I come across the whole attachment to the car, the energy issue, what we talked about, Prif. So that sort of made sort of some sense, and it was waking me up a little bit to energy again. Then when I come in and I tried to sort of talk to him about that, it was like he dismissed that completely. Like that was, don't be silly, it's just the car, the car's broken, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes he will listen to me like that. He'll talk the same as me, and he feels the same with energy and everything. But he's obviously had a bad morning, and he was just like, yeah, whatever, blah, blah. Now, normally, I did get a little bit like, with him. But then I thought, no, because this is going to bring me down. And I could feel like anger, frustration, and then the recognition thing come up again as you was talking, actually. And I thought, yeah, because I wanted him to recognize what I was saying. I wanted to be heard. I wasn't being heard, and he wasn't listening to what I wanted to say, and I was getting more and more wound up. And then obviously we were going to have our meeting and everything, and I was like, oh, I don't want to talk to anybody, blah, blah, blah. And then you said, right, we can jump on now, and I knew I couldn't do it at 3:30, and I thought, well, now is perfect because talking to you two will bring me up again. So yeah, it's about that, having that awareness, trying to stay as neutral as you can. Don't let it dip too much, because in the past that would have spiraled out of control. We would have had a big row about that. But I know it's me wanting recognition, nothing to do with him. It's just that he reacted in the way I didn't want him to react. So my reaction then has to be something different. So yeah, everything you were saying is making so much sense. And I'm working on those personas. Obviously there's more than two, but it does that real authentic self. When that comes through, you know you've got it spot on, and then you feel good. So then you have to, like you say, keep the momentum going, keep that going, and don't let it dip.
And that authentic self is the same as the full version of yourself that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Right? And that is the only version that can actually get that need met of that persona, of the one.
Yeah.
And you see, our awareness can travel between the two. Because when you say, it goes in a loop like this, right? It's when I'm talking about our awareness, our consciousness that move from that one persona to the other one. Because at some point you feel motivated, you want to do, and sometimes you feel, I'm a bit. So there is different version of yourself, right? And it's the awareness moving into that different energy of our different selves that does that, right? And so when you're in your authentic self, and then you can give that energy to that part of you that is not feeling complete. Because why is it not feeling complete? Because it has a need that's not being met. That means it's not complete, right? So when you give that completion energy, it's mainly an acknowledgement. It's like, for example, if you didn't felt heard by your partner, but if you sat with yourself and say, okay, as if there was two of you now.
That's what I did, yeah.
As if there was two of you, one of them is talking, whatever you wanted to talk about, and the other one, the full one, is listening. Now you're giving yourself the need to be heard. And then what happens? That diminishes, and then boom, you get reabsorbed again. Then you will not have that problem ever again.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's something else I was going to say about the whole recognition thing, because I don't know, we had a big chat about it before, I think, with me, and finding out that that's one of my needs that needed meeting is recognition. And I came across a SRT report that I had done a while ago. I don't know if you've ever heard of SRT. It's sort of like a little mini blueprint of what's going on with your soul and how many lives you've had before and this, that and the other, and what you're here to work on now. So what your soul purpose is to come work on. And mine is recognition. It was one of them mind-blowing moments.
Yeah. What does it stand for, SRT?
SRT is soul. I'll have to send it over to you. You can read through mine. Soul something reading. Soul reading. I can't remember what it is, but I'll look it up and I'll send it to you. And I'll send you my report so you can read through it. And it makes so much sense. I mean, I haven't looked at it for a few years. I had it done years ago. And then I remembered that I'd had it done. I was like, oh, I'm going to have a look at that. And then right there at the bottom it says, what you're here to work on this time. And it said recognition. I was just like, oh, pennies dropped. Literally everything we was talking about, I wanted recognition, and there you go. I'm finally learning how to do it myself.
So what the next dimension of this is like, in this life, let's say, we have a different version of ourselves, yeah? But sometimes we can bring one from the previous life. Yeah. That wasn't reabsorbed as well, right?
And apparently I've had many, many, many past lives. Yeah. So there was quite a lot. I've worked on a lot for the last 10 years. So I'm finally having more of an enlightening year this year than I've had ever before. And so many things, even since that 3-day event that we had and we all met and things like that, sort of like speeded up everything. But yeah, that was a crazy aha moment when I just pulled out that report and went, oh yeah. I've literally just been working on that for the last few months.
Yeah. So let's take that thing that you said, the need to be recognized, to feel recognized, right? Let's try to dive deeper about what this recognition will give you. Because if you feel recognized, what then happens?
I don't really feel like I need to work on it anymore. I feel like I'm over it now. It was just that literally a 5-second thing of him not, and like you said, once you're aware of it, you can get over it quick. Do you know what I mean? Now I'm aware of that. So I was aware of it about a month or so ago when we talked about it. I think it was one of our sessions on here. I don't know if it was one that we recorded or not, but I I didn't realize it before that, but then once I'd recognized it, randomly enough, I then knew that recognition was a thing for me that I was pining for, and it was a persona that needed to be met. And I do it for myself now. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yes.
Do you know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
I'm over it, but it still creeps in occasionally. But I recognise it really quickly now. So the fact that I felt like I wasn't being heard, but it passed, because by the time I'd left the room that he was in and I'd come in here, I saw myself getting a little bit annoyed, and then I was like, why are you getting annoyed? And then it clicked again. Oh, because he's not recognising what you're saying. So I kind of worked through it quickly. It's not as quick as I'd like it to be, but I will get there. But then, considering I've only worked that out in the last few months, it's quicker than ever. Like I said, that could have gone into a full-blown argument. I could have been miserable for the rest of the day, but I got it like that. So within minutes, I was...
So you acknowledged it and you accepted it.
Yeah, and I just acknowledged it, and then I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I realised even more so once you started talking, I was like, yeah, I'm right. And I give myself recognition. I didn't need recognition from anyone else.
Exactly.
I know,
and that's what filled you up and made it complete. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one way to look at it is like you give it and make it complete, right? Another way to look at it is like it's a shadow part of you, and when you shine a light on it, what's happened to a shadow when you shine a light? Just gone, disappear, right? And then what you didn't do is put that energy externally, try to blame it on someone else, but internally you say, okay, I've got an issue here, let me sort this out myself, right? Yeah. That's great, beautiful. Yeah, it's like it's this thing. Yeah, it's like when you figure this out, it's actually
great,
so simple. It's so simple, right?
It's really simple, but really difficult at the same time.
But when you don't know how to do it, it sounds so complicated, right? But once you figure it out, it's like now you're not even thinking of it. Like boom, boom, boom. It's all it's all happening very fast.
I think we all have to learn to give ourselves recognition and validation, really.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Very important, yeah.
But it starts with that thing. The negative emotion is very useful in a way then, right? Because it's allowing you to reassemble all the lost bits of you that's gone scattered, and you kind of ignored and forgotten, because it's part of you. It's your in fact it's your energy, it's your power. So you need to bring them all back in and reintegrate them, right? That's then you become more powerful, right? Because at the moment, if they're all like all over the place, then you split and you divided, and when you divided, you weak, right? But when you all bring all of yourselves back in together, then and you fall and you're powerful again, and you're stable and you're very firm on the ground, and no one can move you, right? And another way to look at things that's not going well, that's triggering you, that's making you angry, is like, get excited, look forward for these things, because that means it's an opportunity for you to get even better and improve, right? So welcome it, So that's a mindset thing now, because once you start getting this and you become better and better at it, now you're looking for it now. Yeah. You bring with the challenge, yeah? It's a bit like if you were being punched all over the face and then you couldn't see where the punches were coming, that was painful, right? But as you learn how to fight, now you started, feeling, you're starting to develop this, like the spidey sense, right? And you know where it's coming, right? And now it becomes fun, right? To the point now it's like, oh, okay, when am I going to my next encounter now, So it's like that, right? It's all fun.
All right. Unfortunately, as much as I want to stay, I've got to go because I've got to get ready to go. But thank you both for jumping on today, because I needed to see you both.
Yeah, it's like unplanned, but I think it's quite nice, and hopefully we've recorded it, and people who are going to watch this now hopefully it will help them as well. Cool.
Well, I will head off and I'll leave you two to it, and I will see you soon. I'll speak to you soon, Nicole, too.
Yeah. Nicole, is there anything you wanted
Alright.
to talk about? Because I think we can end it now as well.
Yeah,
also got another.
I agree.
Yeah. Unless you have something else you want to raise, you want to talk about, I'm happy to spend another 5 minutes.
No, that would be useful. I think
Cool.
we should discuss the window of tolerance and the polyvagal theory next time as well, which is what Amel was mentioning as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that next week. Cool. All right.
Right,
Hello.
I'm off. I'll see you
Nicole's
soon.
frozen.
Yeah,
Okay.
Nicole, you're
I'll see you later. Bye,
See
Nicole.
you later.
Hope you can hear us.
Bye.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
Bye.
See you next week.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah.
I
You're
don't know
frozen
what
there.
happened.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.